morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're watching this from. My name is JP. I'm the Managing Director here at ILUS, and as promised, I'd like to take you through a brief ILUS update presentation. So in this video, I'll briefly cover our second quarter progress. I'll give a general business update, and I'm also going to briefly cover a newly announced acquisition, that's of Quality International. So I appreciate you tuning in, and I trust that you'll find this update beneficial. So I'd like to kick off by saying that you'll have now seen the Wikisoft press release stating that the company has signed a binding letter of intent to acquire the majority stake of Quality International, so 51% in this case. And Quality is a Dubai headquartered process equipment manufacturer. It has revenues exceeding $100 million. It's obviously a phenomenal company, and its acquisition for us represents a huge milestone for us at ILUS. And there's just so many highlights about the company, far more that I can cover in this video. It employs 1,350 people, 1,750, up to that many during peak periods. It has massive facilities, as you'll have seen in the PR. It's got state-of-the-art equipment. It's got global customers like Shell, BP, Total, many more. It's got a huge sales pipeline. It has 230 million currently in confirmed purchase orders. And that PR barely scratches the surface about Quality International. So with that being said, I'm going to do a separate video on the company very soon. I'll include videos from members of their management team, photos of their facilities, videos from some of their enormous project deliveries, because it's just awesome to see that. And I'll give you just a full overview of their business. The business takes us to another dimension. So I really personally want to walk you through the magnitude of it so you can fully understand its value and its synergy with ILUS. Again, so you can look forward to that video, which I'll be releasing as soon as possible. Right, so for those who are new to ILUS, and apologies to those who aren't, but let me quickly summarize who we are as a company. We are a public mergers and acquisitions company. We trade on the OTC market under the ticker ILUS. We are focused on acquiring and growing public safety companies with the byproducts of creating shareholder value as a result. We specialize in life-saving technology, products, and software for safer communities and protected frontline personnel. That's our key focus. And we operate out of our global headquarters in Dubai, as well as out of the US and Europe. So that's a quick summary on that front. Right, I've dropped in this slide just to highlight two new members of our management team alongside the names many of you will know. Nick, our CEO, myself, Dr. Krishna Murthy, our CFO, and Louise Bennett, our amazing Chief Operations Officer. And then we've added Carsten Falk to our team as Chief Commercial Officer. Carsten is currently still the interim CEO of Wikisoft Corp, which is obviously undergoing that name change to Quality Industrial Corp. And he has extensive commercial experience, including previously being the CEO of Domino's Pizza in Denmark for around 5 years. And then we also have the recently announced imported appointment of Dan Peters, who we appointed as CEO of our public safety subsidiary, Emergency Response Technologies, or ERT as we often refer to it. And of course, if you've read that PR, you'll have seen Dan has a wealth of experience in the public safety sector, including having been president of several aligned companies, including that of Rev Group. And so both him and Carsten are no doubt very, very valuable members that we've added to our team recently. Company milestones. And this really is a snapshot of the business as I see it. So I'll do my best to walk you through it. We have completed 7 acquisitions to date, and we have many more in the pipeline, currently 12. We delivered $11.4 million in revenue in 2021, bearing in mind that we only took over from previous management and got going in January 2021. We have now agreed the acquisition of Quality International. It's a company, as we've mentioned, with revenues in excess of $100 million. And we're forecasting revenue upwards of $120 million in 2022. So that's run rate revenue. Of course, it's incrementally increasing during the year as we continue on our growth path. We also have the planned uplisting of Emergency Response Technologies to a major stock exchange. And that's, of course, a big milestone for us as a business. Right, so looking at the timeline across to the right-hand side of the slide, as I mentioned, we took over from previous management, got going in January 2021, at which point there was significant restructuring of the company. And to a large extent, that is ongoing. You know, for those of you who run businesses, you'll know that you're always moving the chess pieces around, looking to optimize and increase efficiency and things like that. We also completed 3 acquisitions in 2021, a further 3 early on in 2022. We've signed various letters of intent in the first and second quarter. We also acquired Wikisoft Corp in the second quarter of this year. We've made substantial progress of late regarding the occupation of our manufacturing facilities in Serbia. So I'll talk to you more about that very soon. And then moving on to the third quarter, looking forwards now into the third and fourth quarters, we're still busy with a number of acquisitions across various existing and new subsidiaries, as well as for ERT. We plan to be occupying our EV manufacturing facility in Serbia, as well as a 5-vehicle manufacturing facility in Serbia, with several contracts to boot in that regard. And then there will, of course, be those significant government incentives for both investment projects. We've mentioned that previously. Our replay solutions production is getting underway, so you'll start hearing more news about that. You'll see the consolidation of Quality International into our group in the third quarter. You'll also see the expansion itself of Quality Industrial, because we have more acquisitions planned for that subsidiary of ours. We'll also be launching and expanding new subsidiaries such as defense and drones and others. We'll be confirming our ERT plans with important announcements around that. And then, of course, there's the audit completion that we've spoken about previously, and that's scheduled for the third quarter. In the fourth quarter, of course, there's plenty more, but just trying to summarize it all in one slide. There'll be further ERT progress. There'll be further subsidiary expansion. That, of course, means ongoing acquisitions. And that's really just a snapshot of things as I see them, and as much as I can summarize on one slide. Right, so in this slide, I've just included a revenue forecast for you. This includes our completed and our agreed acquisitions. It does not include any further new acquisitions. Obviously, I'm confident there'll be plenty of those. But there you have it, a forecast of 120 million in 2022, and then ramping up towards 250 million in 2026. Here's a quick snapshot of our second quarter progress. The official figures or filings will be in on the 15th of August, and so that's when you need to check in for these specific results. However, I'm very confident that you will be pleased with the second quarter results, and the revenue will comfortably exceed that of the first quarter. In addition, the forecasted revenue for 2022 has increased substantially. And then other progress in the second quarter, again, these are just some of many highlights. The audit is nearing its completion, and with that should follow the fully reporting status and the name change. There was the press release we put out about the appointment of Dan Peters as the Chief Executive Officer of ERT, of Emergency Response Technologies. And Dan is already adding huge value to us, to our team. And he's also working on some huge deals which, to be honest, outshine anything we've had on our radar before he's joined us. So I'm very confident that Dan is going to continue to add huge value to ERT, to ILUS, and to the other subsidiaries in the group. And then an important point for me is I've really seen a strengthening of businesses within the group. There's been new appointments, including the appointment of a new general manager at Bullhead Products. There's new projects that the various businesses are working on. Companies like Georgia Fire are progressing well. Georgia Fire and Rescue Supply, their revenue in the first quarter was roughly 800,000, and that's ended up just short of 1.2 million in the second quarter. So, steps like that, bite-sized chunks, which I often call them or refer them to, where you can see the individual businesses are growing, is really important to me. There's consistent, steady growth, and that's what we're aiming for. We talk about acquiring and growing businesses, and that's what it's about, whether they're small, medium, or large. It's all about that steady growth, and so we're definitely seeing that within the businesses. And for me, that's the real highlight of the second quarter. So this slide is a snapshot of the ILUS conglomerate structure as we see it. It's just one piece of the greater structure, with this slide, of course, focusing in particular on ERT. But I'm hoping it gives you a good framework of understanding for what we're doing, what we're planning, and where we're headed. And just to say that our plan is the continuous addition of aligned new subsidiaries to ILUS, with new assets being acquired. And whilst that's taking place, we are planning 2 spin-off uplists per year, or at least that's our goal. It could be 1, could be 3. So please don't hold it against me. It's still more than most. And you have ILUS at the top, which is the parent. It's undergoing an audit, which is nearing completion, as I've mentioned. And the view is that ILUS itself will become fully reporting, uplist to the OTCQB, and of course move on from that not so glorious name, Illustrator Pictures International. And then under ILUS, you have Emergency Response Technologies, which in itself has a public safety and an industrial subsidiary. So under that industrial subsidiary, because that's a bit newer to you, is the newly announced Quality International. And as mentioned, we'll be adding several aligned companies in the specialized engineering, industrial, utilities sector, etc. Of course, we have plans for ERT itself to uplist to a major stock exchange. I think many of you will be well aware of that. So let's look at which companies are and will be forming parts of Emergency Response Technologies. You have manufacturing businesses like Fireboat, for example. You have industrial engineering businesses like Quality International. You have wildfire equipment and vehicle manufacturers, firefighting equipment and fire protection system distribution companies, fire protection system manufacturing companies, emergency response communication companies, so that's both infrastructure and software. You have autonomous vehicle manufacturers selling both into the defense and public safety sector, and then virtual and augmented reality training companies. Of course, more businesses will continually be added to ERT itself. So if you've looked at its website, you'll see that it is a mergers and acquisitions company. So the plan is that it will also continue to acquire assets and continue to grow. And so that's a quick summary of ERT. So I just want to reinforce with this slide, and I think it's very important for some people who haven't followed us since earlier on in the year, that the focus of ILUS is to continuously acquire assets. And that is largely what we as a company are doing. So even when one subsidiary, such as the emergency response subsidiary, potentially spins off and uplists to a major stock exchange, ILUS itself has its other subsidiaries which are growing rapidly, with the view that they too can potentially spin off at a later stage. And of course, simultaneously, ILUS can also consolidate the revenue from its majority-owned subsidiaries. So really, this slide just illustrates that ILUS is continually pulling in those assets and putting them into their aligned subsidiaries. And then, of course, that plan will continuously repeat itself. So here are some highlights to look forward to in the second half of the year. Again, there's many more than these, but these are just a few that I've personally picked out. There's the growth of the existing businesses, which is incredibly important, and the consolidation of new acquisitions into the group. There's obviously going to be a strong focus on the US markets in the second half of the year under the leadership of Dan Peters. And with that, there'll be the focused rollouts of some of our core technology into the US market. The ILUS Audit will be completed. I've mentioned that a few times. There's the occupation of the Serbian manufacturing facilities with multiple sites and substantial government incentives and contracts with that. The acquisitions, of course, will continue. There's 12 in the pipeline, and there's also many larger new deals now in discussion. We have a stronger reputation, increased momentum, and that means we've got larger deals on our deck. There's the share lockup, and of course, the all-important culmination of those ERT plans. So to summarize, we are forecasting upwards of $120 million revenue this year, and that's increasing to upwards of $245 million in 2026 without factoring in any new acquisitions other than the ones already completed and agreed at this stage. We're continuously adding further value to ILUS with new subsidiaries and new acquisitions for those subsidiaries. I believe we still have a very committed and experienced and transparent management team, and we're continuously adding greater experience to the team. And of course, it's very important to us that the ILUS technology continues to make a difference in our communities and increases the difference that it is making in our communities. So in conclusion, you can look forward to a detailed, very interesting, and hopefully a very exciting Quality International presentation, which I will put out as soon as possible. You can also look forward to an update on the Serbian facilities, and I do believe that will be a very exciting update. Hopefully, through this presentation and through recent events, you can start to see a glimpse of the whole ILUS conglomerate coming together. And then finally, sincerely, I'd really like to thank the ILUS shareholders, the ILUS family, for your ongoing support. It really does mean a great deal to Nick and myself and the ILUS team. So I hope you've gained a good amount of clarity and information from this presentation. Of course, there's plenty more to come in that Quality International presentation, as I've stressed many times, and many other exciting updates to come as well. I'd like to thank you for your time, and I'd like to wish you a really good weekend, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon. Goodbye.